Welcome inside the Treehouse Football Podcast. I'm Dan O'Malley along with Trey Trenholm and Raj Sharma. Where today in this episode we will try to answer the question, if the Cowboys don't bother to show up in Buffalo to play a game, are we really required to talk about it? Seeing as how I witnessed most of that game last night, I have many thoughts, and so I feel like maybe we should discuss at least some of the ineptitude, but I don't know. How do you guys feel?
Raj,
Yeah.
is there no conspiracy theory out there that, maybe because it's New York and it's the mob, and that the Cowboys, they came out there and they warmed up, and it was Dak and everyone, and they felt good, and then they all got hurried away to scores and have a night at the strip clubs, and they put a bunch of scabs out there and lookalikes, and that's what happened.
No, here's how it works. But I told you Vegas runs everything, and the mob runs Vegas, right? So they showed up, and there were the video that Dan said on their the if you guys were talking about it, if you watch their social media, them dancing around and having a good time, and what they're wearing on the plane, and then they're in the locker room, and then Vinny the Chin comes in and it's like, hey, I need you guys to tank this by about 20 points because this is what we got. This is how much money we got. And a couple of briefcases came in, and they're like, hey, these are for you guys. You don't say nothing. You'll still go to the playoffs. This will be an embarrassment, but this money will ease the pain. So if that's the conspiracy theory if that's the only thing I could think of, or they were all extremely, I think they might have just had alcohol on the plane, and they were all just extremely hungover. It was the worst.
They were
still they were still drunk. If we're going to go that route, they were still drunk.
There was one story going around about how supposedly there was a stomach bug making its way around the team, and that maybe up to 10 players were dealing with it. Which is something my wife brought up last week watching the game when they said Micah Parsons was dealing with flu-like symptoms, and she's like, and there he is on the sideline next to everybody breathing on them. And then this week, a possible sickness outbreak.
Yeah, it's called tequila.
Tequila can also bring about flu-like symptoms. There was some other unsubstantiated rumor that a number of the players were at the team hotel the night before and ordered a pizza, and somehow it was tainted. Or there is this other possibility.
Wait! What is this? Is this the Michael? Where we're now the Bulls, and now this is the Michael Jackson or the Michael Jordan flu game was actually he was food poisoning.
Well, Michael Jordan actually triumphed in his flu game.
Right.
Yes.
The Cowboys floundered. And there is one other theory, although it is a bit outlandish, but it's the one I believe I'm going to subscribe to about the Cowboys' loss to the Bills, and that is aliens.
Okay.
And aliens came down much like the Skrulls in the Marvel movies and shows, where they visually appear to be the person that they have replicated.
Mm-hmm.
But they're still ill-coordinated aliens that don't know a damn thing about playing American football. So that's my theory. I have decided to subscribe to Marvel Skrulls took over the Cowboys and took the field for whatever reason, and really just dropped a big old alien turd in the middle of upstate New York.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you said that you watched all of it. I think I fell asleep at one point. It was just that bad. I fell asleep watching it.
I could not watch all of it. I made it through most.
Okay.
And I believe I made it through at least a portion of the fourth quarter, which is more than can be said for the Cowboys players, because I think they were back on the plane somewhere halfway through the second.
Yeah, the first quarter, I made it. I don't think I got all the way through the second, and I woke up in like middle of the third quarter, going into the fourth, and I just couldn't. I was done. I had more enthusiasm in my sleep than those players had at the actual game. It was. I'm guessing stomach bug. It has to be something, because it had to be a collective, hey, we're going to not play today. Everybody good with that? Everybody good with not playing today? after that first series, it was a wrap. Like I don't know if you just like I think Trey, you sent text messages like there's no fire, like there's no sense of urgency, there's nothing, and I think that was after the first series. I was like they're done. This is going to be it. And then the I think right after that personal foul penalty, when they got the 15 yards or whatever, I think it was maybe fourth down, and it ended up being roughing the kicker or something like that.
They had a couple of those in the first half that did not help things.
Yeah, and right when that happened, I was like, that's it. We can go to sleep now." I mean, does anybody? We wouldn't change the channel. What else is on? This is terrible.
And if the game had been even close last night, then I would start to bag on that it was really a poorly officiated game. But you're right. The Cowboys, in the big moments, just shot themselves in the foot. It was easy for them to call.
Like, yeah, it really was. And the other thing that drove me nuts about that is all of it. That's what it is all of it. And that's what's so frustrating about it is right about the point where, and I said this on the last football episode, right about the point where you think they may have turned a corner and that they might actually be turning into a championship caliber team, they pull one of these.
Yeah, I think it was when the targeting to Dak was not going to be called, and then the sideline kind of erupted right then. I was like, prior to that hit, there was a hold that was just flagrant that wasn't called, and I was like, if this, and then that happened, I was like, okay, so the officiating is on the Bills side. I get it. It's a home field, it's a home team thing, whatever. But it was just.
I thought that the play where Micah Parsons got hurt, I thought that was really questionable about, was that guy really going for his knees or what was going on?
Yeah. I mean, there was a lot of things that weren't getting called, and there was, but again, at the end of the day, you can, the lame thing to do is blame the refs on that, right? Like, I mean, it'd be like, who's their fault? No, I mean, these guys literally are professional athletes that get paid millions of dollars. And they showed up with zero enthusiasm. I don't know.
It looked like they started their Christmas vacation early.
Yeah, they did. It scores, and then they sound. I mean, we can go with that. They were just hungover and out there, but I think the reason they didn't call that on the Micah Parsons where took out his knee is because it really wasn't Micah. It was some some scab that they pulled in off the street. And they don't care. He's disposable.
Yeah. It's the replacements with their jerseys.
Yes.
So at the end of the day, I think we're all in agreement here that at least from let me backtrack momentarily. I was not shocked that they lost because this game worried me. It worried me on the schedule when it was first released well before the season ever started. Because going to Buffalo is already hard, especially when Buffalo's good. Buffalo's had kind of an up and down rocky season, but like a true playoff contender or championship contending team, they're getting good and putting it together when they need to. And so I wasn't shocked that they lost the game. I was just shocked at the lack of intensity, fire, enthusiasm, whatever it is, certain sense of urgency. That was the part that shocked me. And I'm curious, was there any other takeaway for you guys that shocked you in this game?
No, I think you hit it. Like there was nothing there. There was no sense of urgency. There was no in my head at one point I was like, just put the second team in and see what because they're trying to make their name. Put them in, see what they do at this point, because you guys aren't doing anything. So put the other guys in and let's see what they do.
My biggest the offense is what really grabbed my attention, and I hope it was okay. It was just everything was off, because the other option is that Buffalo figured out something to do to our offense that rendered them completely inept. I mean, it was it the third quarter by the time we got over 100 yards?
Yes. I believe it was the third quarter, and I think the biggest shocking thing for me from this game was the fact that the Cowboys even managed to score a touchdown. The fact that they got 10 points, I was actually shocked by the end of it.
Yeah, I think Trey has a point. I think at one point on the sideline, maybe somebody said, next we're going to score. And they heard, next we're going to scores. And instead of them translating that into 6 points, they all left. And by the time the Cowboys realized what it got, well, like, what did you say? It's like, I said, we're going to score. And then the stadium was too loud and they heard we're going to scores. And so they just left. And that was just a mess up on whoever was trying to hype up the team, because outside of that, like, I mean, I don't know if again, it's like, unless there was a briefcase of money right before they walked out, it was like, here's this to just tank this.
Yeah. It also didn't help that when that whole scores thing was mentioned, that Mike McCarthy's sitting behind the wheel of the bus saying, "Come on, everybody, let's go."
Buffet ends at midnight.
I didn't come all the way to Buffalo to not get some legs and eggs. At least then that would be somewhat of an excuse, or at least a reason, or some sort of nonsense besides the actual nonsense that was on display in that game. I mean, it really was. I mean, I'm trying not to put too much stock in it, because look, this happens. It's the NFL. You play a good team. Sometimes they're just going to get you. Even the Chiefs have more losses right now than the Cowboys do. The Bills, as good as they looked on Sunday, have more losses than the Cowboys do. So you try to, balance it out as a fan from saying, well, same old Cowboys, here we go again, beat up on bad teams, get the crap kicked out of them by good teams. With, it happens, and maybe come playoff time, they'll be better.
Well, then with that in mind, then what do you do? How do you come out of this game going into Miami, who that team is on fire? So how do you, if you can't do that with, if that's the thing, like, cause what's the stat, 7-0 at home, 3-3 on the road, not 3-4 on the road now. And so now you're walking into Miami, who they're great. Maybe is it what my dad used to say this weird thing. He's like, they're not used to playing in the cold. I'm like, well, could that be it? Like, maybe it's like, hey, this is too cold here.
It was 43.
Yeah. It wasn't even Buffalo cold. Like no. Buffalo's walking around, in Hawaiian shirts and hula skirts before the game. Like, man, this is balmy.
Yeah, that was my dad. Like, anytime the Cowboys lost on the road, my dad would find some weather-related thing to it. It's like, they don't like it when it's too sunny. I'm like, well, too sunny. We're in Dallas.
That is a problem in the new stadium, because they didn't point it north and south. So those afternoon games at Jerry World can get a little dicey when you're staring back into the setting sun in the west end zone.
I think we learned that in the playoff game last year. They're like, you should probably close that. And they're like, no, we're good. And, we lost. But yeah, so that's what, like, I'll look at the weather and I'm like, is it rain? And then it started raining. I'm like, well, this is a wrap. Like, they're not going to be able to.
The thing is, though, there's all these excuses that were lined up on the road. Buffalo team playing for its playoff lives. It's cold-ish. It's outside. It started to rain. The refs' calls were a little questionable. None of those things could be legitimate factors in the game because they were so terrible from the start.
Yeah. I said right after that targeting call, when it would have been, 15 yards to our advantage, but then it was an offsetting penalty because the sideline erupted. I was like, you know what, this is they just don't look after that series. I was like, they don't look that it's done. And I tried to stay awake, but I mean, by the middle of the second quarter, I think I was out. I was already asleep. This was so terrible. And who's it? Is it Cook? Is that their running back?
Yes, James.
Yeah,
Cook.
James Cook. That man had the game of his career. Like, that was.
Yeah, the irony is he actually probably scored at scores after the game. He was scoring everywhere else.
He scored on the way to scores.
You're listening to the Treehouse. Visit us online at treehouseonair.com.
You're in the Treehouse. Visit us online at treehouseonair.com.
Back inside now, the Treehouse Football Podcast, and trying to see as best as we can to put that Buffalo game in our rearview mirrors very, very, very far behind us as much as humanly possible, while still hopefully learning something from the game to apply moving forward. But speaking of forward, is you go from a difficult road game in Buffalo to a difficult road game in Miami with another one of the top AFC teams, and they didn't look good last week. You don't know if they're going to be good, in Miami. But the good news is, at least it's warmer in Miami.
Yeah, I mean, it is Miami, so that's going to come with.
If they had distractions in Buffalo, then South Beach is going to create a whole nother set of issues.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. You're right. Do you think if you were a part of the Miami PR team, you would go out of your way, sort of like an overzealous Airbnb host, and put suggested things to do inside the binder pamphlets in the players' hotel room, saying like, "Oh, things to do and see," while you're here in Miami, such as a book full of Instagram models on South Beach just waiting for a good time.
I just think it's hookers and 8 balls in every room for the Cowboys.
Yeah, and you know what? That right there, we have found it. The difference between the 90s Dynasty Cowboys and every team that has followed. The 90s Dynasty Cowboys could mow through drugs and hookers with no problem and still show up to win the game the next day. Not these current teams.
The next day, these guys were doing that in halftime. Jerry was cutting up lines in there like, "You guys look great out there."
Hell, if you look really close at the bottom of those dog piles.
That's just because somebody dropped their bag. That's
not a fumble. That's
a party foul. That's what that is.
Yeah, a hooker and an 8 ball for those 90s Cowboys teams, that would have gotten them for like the first 45 minutes. And then it'd be like one of those videos where, it was like everyone else is passed out and strewn about. And then, it's like a cloud of smoke. And then just here comes, you just see Michael Irvin in a fur-lined jacket just walking through going, "What's next?"
and just a fur-lined jacket, nothing else.
No pads, no pants.
Yeah, if I was the Miami PR team, I'd be like, things to do while in Miami, and just have a lobby full of women. Things to do. Here you go, buddy. Just come downstairs, and you got it. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if you're gonna, if Buffalo, I mean, if you got distracted in Buffalo, like, first of all, that tells me you can get distracted in Columbus,
Ohio or Missouri.
Sure. That's what that tells me. Like, Miami will, if Buffalo distracted you, Miami will kill you. Like, that's how that will work. Half this team is not coming back if that's what the distractions are. But I mean, on a serious note, like, Miami looks really good. And you're dealing with.
To me, Miami's one of those. They're like the Cowboys. When they're really good, my God, watch out. They might throw up 70 points. On the other hand, just last week, they lost at home to Tennessee. So,
yeah. But I mean, I think the consistent thing with Miami is Tyreek Hill. Like, he, week after week, I mean, regardless of the rest of the team, week after week, that guy's on fire. And he's fun to watch. He's explosive. And again, going back to the Buffalo game, well, the Cowboys led with explosive plays. That's what they were saying. They led the NFL with explosive plays, and then they had 0 in the entire game against Buffalo. And Tyreek Hill usually has at least one big play in almost every game. And so if they shut down on a penalty call or on whatever it is that they shut down in Buffalo, then they're going to shut down when Tyreek Hill blows past them.
Yeah, any explosive plays from Buffalo you would have seen brown spots on their pants.
See, we're going back to this. stomach bug idea. Maybe they didn't want to have any explosive plays, right? Because that's what it would have been. Like, hey, we got to be more explosive out there. Like, coach, you don't understand. We can get explosive if you need to, if you need us to. But this is going to be like that scene again in the replacements with the eggs. Like, this is going to be.
Coach, this is America's Game of the Week on Fox, and we all don't want to be doing the ass fountain in the middle of it. Little did everyone know, but because of that stomach bug flowing through the team, they were all wearing butt plugs.
Or you want to talk about a conspiracy because now Dak is a big sponsor is that Cologuard where you crap in a cup and it tests for colon cancer. So this was one big marketing scheme. Look, you can shit your pants in Buffalo and find out you got colon cancer or not.
I'd much prefer that just keep it at the PSA. Don't let it cross over into the game.
Also, Ass Fountain is probably the name of a strip club in Miami. So just to let you know, there might be one regardless.
or it's at least the second dance for some big time performer.
Ladies run a two-song rotation. I just hope they look better in Miami. Look, I mean, at this point, like they mentioned during the game yesterday, and I saw the news before the game on Sunday, Cowboys were able to clinch a playoff spot even, before kickoff against Buffalo. And I want to see some urgency in this game in Miami because I don't think that they should have needed a reminder that they can get their ass kicked at any given time on any given Sunday type of situation, because I would have hoped that reminder against San Francisco earlier in the year would have sufficed. But if they needed one more, fine. But you better turn it on starting now.
Well, I mean, if the news was announced, like you said, they've already clinched a playoff spot. And if that news got into the locker room before the game, don't you think they would go, hey, let's just stay healthy? Like, we don't need to win this.
If that's the case, then don't play. If that's the case, then don't have Zach Martin out there in the first place to actually get hurt, or anybody else for that matter. You either show up and play, because what happens is if you play timid, that's
you were also talking about. Yeah, they got that news, but they also meant they were in the run for the first round bye of the playoffs because with the best record, which you would think that might have given them enough motivation to go, all right, you know what, we can at least get a week off in between, starting the playoffs and get all healthy.
Yeah, but they took the week off last night. So they started like Dan said, they started Christmas early. They're like, hey, we already got a playoff spot. I'm not gonna play. I'm not gonna do anything. I'm not gonna exert any energy. I'm not gonna do anything out. I'm not gonna go above and beyond, which is what your job is. It's what you get paid millions of dollars for. It's what you guys will hold out, and sit at home for contract disputes. And then you show up and you find out, we're going to the playoffs regardless of a win or not. So let's just kind of half-ass, not even half-ass, like let's no-ass this.
That's exactly what it was. There was no ass at the ass fountain.
That sounds like a disclaimer that should be on the outside of the club. Listen, no ass in the ass fountain.
I'm just hoping that that's not the headline next week, the day after the Miami game.
No ass in the ass fountain.
for the Cowboys,
yeah. But I think that again, that could have been it too. I didn't even think about it, but if they got the news in the locker room before the game, like, hey, we already clinched a spot in the playoffs.
That to me is one of those things that if that mattered to them and that's the performance they put out after hearing it, this team has no, what did they say in Major League 2, Trey, with what's his name, Takada from Japan? He opens up his little book and he says, you have no marbles. And he starts doing the hand thing around his balls. That's the one thing I kept thinking about watching the Buffalo game, is that this team has no balls. And I'm hoping that they find them sometime between now and kickoff against Miami.
I just hope I hope Raj is right, and that they did find out that they were making the playoffs, regardless before the kickoff. And then it just became, Mike McCarthy running towards the bus. Last one, was a rotten egg. And let's go to the buffet.
No
Save
one
me a
wants
T-bone.
rotten legs and eggs.
It's Buffalo. They don't know any better. So, but yeah, again, it just if that news got to that, I that's one of those things like you keep to yourselves. What? Go, Trey.
Just a Buffalo strip club is probably just some hookers outside of a Waffle House.
Some lot lizards at a Bucky.
I like that they're outside the Waffle House.
You gotta have standards, Dan.
Waffle House is like, no, get out. We don't want your kind in here. I would like to just point out that this is part of the reason why I love doing this show with you guys, is that even after a really crummy loss and the Cowboys kind of put me in a sour mood, I feel a little bit better. So thank you.
I think we all do. Yeah.
It's weird how Cowboys fans, we get heat around, because I don't know how often you travel to different places and hear people bitch about Cowboys fans. One of the main gripes I hear, we heard this the other day in Mississippi. Oh, I don't like Cowboys fans because they cheer for every little good thing their team does. Like, oh my God, how awful we cheer for our team doing well. Yes, we're happy they gained a yard because we're used to them losing 15. So yeah, we're going to be happy that they went forward for a change. But we certainly know how to not only praise our team when they do just one tiny thing good, but you're not going to find, I think, any fan base better at just trouncing on their own team the way that we can.
Yeah, I'm going to set this up for you, Trey. We're really good at taking it on the chin.
Outside the Waffle House.
When I thought of it, I was like, I'm going to say it anyway. But
it's some guy in the back screaming, "Smothered and covered."
Smothered and covered, and he wasn't talking about the hash browns. He was talking about the hooker in lot 3.